I kind of felt the devil try to change my mindset, right? He was like, well, you did good on the first day, but that's the easy stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like, he tried to make you kind of second guess, and he was like, what's up, y'all? Yeah, so my boy Zach and C Love asked me to kind of, give my testimony. Um, Man, there's so many different aspects I can go with this, right? Just in general. But I think I'm just going to start from the beginning for the most part and kind of speed through and then kind of get to the parts that God kind of really, made itself evident in my life, right? So I was grow up in the church, right? My mother and my father always made sure me and my brother and my sister, we was always, in church. Went to Bible study, learned all the stories, went to Catholic school. My dad's Baptist, so I had those both experiences. But it really wasn't, I want to say I was in maybe like 11, maybe like 12 or 13 or something. I gave my life to Christ, and I just kind of gave it all. And I don't know if I really understood the magnitude of what I was doing in that moment, but all I knew was, I was going to give it all to him, right? I was going to give him my entire life. I was tired of, I guess, getting in trouble and making the decision of like, making bad choices and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, God, like you take it all, right? So literally from that point on, looking back, I can see just God was protecting me from so many things. God was leading me and directing me in so many different aspects, right? It's mind blowing when I think about it now, right? So fast forward, hey, in high school, I was pretty much just like every other high school guy, right? Playing football, trying to get a scholarship, in honors classes, trying to do my thing, and trying to get girls. I'm gonna keep honest. I was, just like every other high school kid, man. I was trying to have sex and do the whole thing and all that good stuff, right? Or all that stuff. But it wasn't until my going into my freshman year, I got a scholarship to play ball at Henderson State. And I'm a firm believer. And the only reason I kind of went there, don't get me wrong, playing football was great, was to meet these brothers and a couple other brothers. That was the main reason I feel like God needed me at Henderson State, right? So before I got to Henderson that summer, me and one of my best friends, Byron Johnson, we decided to make a pact, right? Make a pact and be like, hey, we got to eliminate all distractions to get to the league, right? All distractions we got to eliminate. And we was like extreme too. So we was like, man, no drinking, no smoking, no partying, no sex. Cut it all out, right? Because we was like, man, we got to find a way to get an edge, right? So literally, man, I was just grinding, bro. All I was doing is grinding, going to school with the exception of maybe pledging. Man, it was work. It was work, right? And my boys still don't believe me. But when I tell you, I don't think I really like consistently hung out with a woman like until that last semester of my senior year, to be honest. Like, y'all not gonna believe me. But y'all, see, Love was my roommate at one point, and Zach was my roommate at one point. So they knew it wasn't as flowing like, after the fact, right? Because I was just so focused on football and grades and all that good stuff to where, that was my main focus, right? Now, as I started growing in my relationship with God, right? Going to BCM, FCA, accountability group, refuge, literally going through all these things every day of the week but game day, right? We was getting into the word some kind of way. I understood that motivation behind, being absent and waiting to have sex and not doing certain things. The motivation was a little off, right? I needed to change that, and I needed to do it for Jesus Christ and not for the NFL, because what happens in the NFL doesn't work, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, cool. I started changing that motivation. And I think I changed it, but I think it still was like, okay, I still hope this stuff happens, right? Yeah, so like I changed it, but, obviously I still had that desire to play in the league, right? That was the main focus. So fast forward, man, had some great seasons, led the team in interceptions one year, won a couple of championships, literally worked all through that whole process, right? That whole process of being in college, right? And yeah, that was struggles, that was ups and downs and stuff like that. But, we worked through it, kept our faith all the way through, right? So this is where things get a little testy, right?
Yeah.
So after we graduate, right, my senior year wasn't necessarily as great as I would have hoped in terms of stat-wise and everything. But I was like, hey, God, I'm going to trust you at this process to get to the NFL, right? I'm going to trust you on it. Ended up getting an opportunity to do my pro day with Tulane University in Louisiana. And I also had a private workout, not a private workout, but a workout with the New Orleans Saints as well, right? You can see the footage on YouTube. I feel like I killed it, right? Literally, didn't drop a ball. Everything was on point. Like I was smooth. I was behind ready, right? And didn't get drafted. Didn't get picked up. Didn't get the rookie minicamp. Didn't get nothing, right? Most I got was a couple calls here and there for a couple teams, right? And I'm gonna be honest, man, that man, when you talk about life rocking you, that really rocked me, right? Even to this day, and I'm gonna keep it a buck, even to this day, I still feel like residue of that kind of experience still kind of affected me in certain ways, right? I'm gonna be honest, I feel like God kind of let me down. I was disappointed. I was pissed. I'm not even gonna stunt. I was pissed because I feel like I did everything that I possibly could have done in order to, man, just get a shot. And I'm not saying I had to been like no, Richard Sherman killing the game at that time or whatever, but man, I thought I deserved to at least compete, right? Because one thing I know about myself, like I may not be the biggest, fastest, strongest, or whatever, I know I can compete with those guys, right? So I was pissed. I was so pissed, right? And then after, tried the whole Canadian League. Just wasting money there, right? They just was taking taking up the $100 real quick. Right?
They come in that.
Getting rich of all those American players. And then I tried the arena team, right? Ended up getting signed, and then they was like, yeah, we're gonna do the arena thing in Sioux Falls, and we're gonna make it happen every X, Y, and Z, right? I was like, cool, this is what we're gonna do. And then the NFL wanted to decide to make a whole, they call it the Spring League now, XFL. They tried to do that earlier when I was coming out, right? And I got drafted to a team in Oregon. All this great stuff was happening. I was like, all right, bet. Like we're gonna transition. We're not gonna do the arena. And we're gonna do this, right? So I ended up, committing to them. Fell through, right? And then by that time, the arena league was already mid-season, so I could just jump on it, right? So I was just stuck, right? And I was stuck, and I was like, well, I'm not about to just not do nothing, right? So I ended up coaching. I ended up coaching on my high school team. That was actually the year we won our first national championship. That was when we first won our first.
I was gonna say that's pretty impressive. You guys won a national championship in high school,
right? We won our first state championship, man, and I met some great young kids that I still kind of mentor and kind of pour in today. And I think that's why I kind of, was put there. But I realized coaching really wasn't my thing, right? I love pouring into kids. I love, getting them better and have them, learn something that I wish I had when I was their age. But the structures of like teaching and stuff, it just wasn't me at the time, right? So I was like, I prayed to God. I was like, God, like what we doing? Like what? I'm not about to just spend all my 20s trying to make it to the league, and at the end of the day, not have nothing to show for it. So what we doing? God was like, I need you to go to law school. I was like, what? I know I said that, but I was like, I'm really not trying to go to law school, right? He was like, yeah, Chris, I need you to go to law school. And how he gave me one of my confirmation on it was to cut my hair, right? Came from a family member that I don't really like, not super close with or whatever. He was like, yeah, I think it's time. And then I kind of just felt the spirit was like, yeah, bro, it's time. So I had dreads. Probably like a little shorter than she loves, right? And I was like, you know what? You said it. I'm going to do it. So I cut it. Took the LSAT, got into Southern University Law Center. And I was in law school, right? With my brother, of course. But I was in law school at that point. Now, when I tell you, y'all, for anybody that understands this and you can appreciate this, of literally doing something strictly out of obedience, not necessarily because you want to, right? Because I know a lot of times in society, people say, oh, follow your heart, follow your heart. Man, there's going to be sometimes God's going to tell you to do something you don't want to do, right? And that's just the reality of it. And he told me to go to law school, and I really didn't want to, right? I really didn't want to, but he was like, hey, I need you to do this. I was like, okay, cool. There were literally times in class where I was sitting down and people answering questions and all into it and stuff. And I was like, man, why am I here? Right? Like part of me just wanted to walk out the class and just be like, man, I'm good. I'm good with this, right? Not that I was just, you know, half going through it because I was like putting effort, but it just, my heart wasn't there, right? I was still trying to get to the NFL, right? Shit, you can ask the flag football people, man. I was like on a whole different level, man. But yeah, that's what God said do, right? God said, you know, go to law school. I need you to do it, and we did it. We made it all the way through. We passed all our classes. Did this, did that. It was a great experience, right? One, I always wanted to go to HBCU, so that alone was an amazing experience. But then to go to a law school where my two cousins graduated before me, my dad graduated before me, my brother's in there with me. It was just it was a different sense of feeling, right? And I actually love that aspect of it. Fast forward, right? Graduate, X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada. Now it's time for the bar, right? And I was like, God, like, do I really have to take the bar now? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I did what you said. All right, I went to law school. I did what you said. Do I have to take the bar now? Because my whole thing was I knew what it took to pass the bar, right? And I knew it was going to take all of me. I knew it was going to be like training for the NFL. So I was like, all right. He was like, yeah, you got to take it. So when I tell you I went into like NFL mode, like, bro, when I tell you all I did was wake up, pray, study, work out, study, pray for like a good 3 months straight. Like, didn't masturbate, didn't watch porn, didn't barely watch movies. Like, literally, when I tell you all I would do, I was laser focused. I mean, extremely. That's probably one of, between that and the NFL, that was probably the most focused I've ever been, right? Wow. And I mean, I was diving in, right? Because I knew I would have to immerse myself in it, right? Because my whole thing was, I ain't taking this test again. That ain't happening. And for those who didn't know, man, the Louisiana bar exam is 3 days. It's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 3 exams on each day. So that's 3 exams that are 2 hours, and the last one is 3 hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right? And you have to get 750 points out of 1,000, and it's all written with a little multiple choice. So you got to be moving, like you got to be different, right? And throughout that process, God told me, he said, just meet me there. He said, he literally gave me the scripture that he gave Moses. He said, I will teach you what to say. Just go, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, this is what you say? I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to meet you in that seat, right? So literally, I studied, I did my thing. And if you ever prepare for something like the bar exam, you don't really know you are, you know all the information, right? Because there's so much information. You don't really know, you don't ever feel ready, right? But God was like, meet me there. So I was like, cool, we doing it. So we studying, we get to the day of the bar exam. It's like the seat was anointed, y'all. Like when I tell you, I sat down and it felt like I was cheating. Like, I promise you, it felt like I was cheating because the words that was coming out that I was typing, it was like it was just flowing out. I don't even feel like I was thinking. Because, for example, and y'all can appreciate it, if you ever was boxing or if you ever played football, it was like you was watching the play happen and you was just like moving. It's kind of like, if you ever watch Dragon Ball Z, you know, Dragon Ball Z Super. Y'all know when Goku like went into that ultimate form and he was just moving and he wasn't really thinking and he was just flowing with it? That's exactly what it felt like, right? So I was just flowing. Literally answered every question. Was flowing. Like literally, I felt untouchable, right? Literally, God, at the end of it, man, a lot of people, a lot of my friends and colleagues and stuff was like, man, I don't know how I did. I don't know. Because it's a lot. Man, when I tell you I knew I passed it, I was like, that's done. It's a wrap. I passed it. Right? I passed it. And even throughout like those days, that Tuesday and that Wednesday, you can kind of see I kind of felt the devil try to change my mindset, right? He was like, well, you did good on the first day, but that's the easy stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like he tried to make you kind of second guess, and he was like, nah, God's with me here. He was with me the first day. He's going to be with me the second day, right? Period. So I literally had to train myself in dismissing thoughts, right? Like when the devil would like enter a thought or kind of give you suggestions, I was like, dismissed immediately. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not even entertaining it. Dismissed. And go right back into the word. Dismissed. You said, hey, these are words you gave me, so I'm on it, right? So get it, passed the bar, X, Y, and Z, yada, 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 right? Fast forward again, a couple months, really. Ended up getting, going on an interview. Literally 2 hours later, I became a DA, right? Assistant district attorney, a prosecutor, right? That was all by the hands of God. And God was like, hey, I needed you to be there, right? I needed you to learn what I needed to learn, right? I needed you to kind of dive into that arena to make a difference, right? And to learn how this whole trial process works, right? So I literally did that. Tried cases, won cases. I'm still undefeated in the courtroom, but yeah, we had a great time. We had a great time learning and stuff like that. But I kind of felt like, God, I still don't feel like this is my purpose, right? I understand it was obedience. I understand you needed me to kind of get that ESQ behind my name. You needed me to learn some things, meet some people, but I don't feel like this is my purpose, right? And even to this day, y'all, when I tell you finding your purpose is a journey, it is a journey because I still don't feel like I necessarily know my purpose right now. So yeah, ended up transitioning from the DA to something else. I'm gonna tell y'all what that something else a little later. But ended up transitioning that.
I'm excited to hear about that one.
Yeah. I think y'all gonna like it too. But yeah, so we ended up transitioning that, and now we're kind of just we're really walking out on faith, right? That transition was really hard, and I just want to encourage everybody that's going through their process, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's trying to get a degree, become a doctor, trying to be a social, whatever you're trying to do, right? And it's not necessarily practical. It's stepping out on that faith, right? Like literally stepping out on the boat and trying to walk on water, right? What happens when God tells us to step out on the boat and walk on water and trust me? Man, that's not easy.
Right.
Because you got a safety net. And it's easy when you got a safety net to have faith. Right? It really is easy to have faith when you have a safety net. But when you're going all in and God's like, hey, no, kill the safety net. I need you to step out and walk on water. Man, I'm gonna be honest, it's scary, right? Even I know God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but hey, it's scary, right? And I'm literally still walking through that right now, right? And I'm just trusting that, hey, God will provide. Right? He is my Jehovah Jireh. So he's going to provide every step of the way. And look, like you said, I mean, I don't want y'all to really, because I know a lot of people see me and see my social media and be like, hey, Chris, like you doing your thing, you this, you that, you got all these talents and gifts. And yeah, God has blessed me with all of these, different aspects. But man, when I tell you it's still difficult, right? The one thing about people that have vision that people don't really talk about, man, it's a cross you got to carry when you have vision, right? When you have talents and when you have certain things that kind of God gives you. And God has given me so many things, like just in my phone, man, in my notes. There's so many things that I couldn't even begin to tell y'all of what he has planned. But that's the difficult part. He just shows you the end picture of like, all right, this is what I have planned. He don't show you how you're going to get there. He don't show you when you're going to get there. He don't show you your wife. He don't show you when you're going to get married. He don't show you all these things. He just like, keep preparing for it. Keep working.
Well, you know what's crazy is when you think about it, if he were to tell us these things, would you really be relying on him?
Right.
And then at the end of the day, God's desire is for our heart to yearn to be with him rather than for our heart to be like, on other things, and realize that he is the giver of any of these things. So anything that good comes from him.
All right. And I'm going to be honest, y'all, like this happened this year, the beginning of this year, man. I had a conversation with God, probably one of the realest conversations I ever had with God, right? And I had to be so transparent with him. And this is probably the first time I was like, nah, God, I think I'm still mad at you for the whole NFL thing. Like, you know what I mean? Because I still feel disappointed from it. I feel like you haven't, people say, oh, that means God got something so much better for you, right? I'm still, to a certain extent, waiting on that better, right? Because I guess I had a perspective of how the NFL was going to be or the people I can touch or the influence I would have and then the things I could do for God with the NFL. So now it was like, God, like what's up? Like, you know what I mean? Like what we doing? you know? And it was difficult sometimes. It was difficult because I had to have that conversation with him to be like, I had to ask myself, it's the realest question everybody needs to ask at some point. Is Jesus enough? Is Jesus alone enough? Right? Not the stuff he promised you, not even the visions he's given you, right? Or the things he's like, is him alone enough? And I'm gonna be honest, like in that moment, I was like, no. I was really like, nah, I know, like, no, because I know you, right? And I know Jesus. And I really started struggling between the visions God gave me and God, right? And I was like, you told me to do it. Like, you know what I mean? It was kind of like the NFL when I was like, hey, why'd you even put me on this path if you knew it wasn't going to happen? You know what I mean? Right. But I had to realize, man, it's not always about the result. It's about the process. It's about who you become in that process, right? It's because the things you learn. It's become the people you meet, the people you reflect, the lessons you learn, right? And it's still difficult, right? I look, anybody that understands where I'm coming from, it is still a journey. It's still a battle each and every day, right? Because, you know, you want to do so many things, even for good reason, even to glorify God, right? But we have to remember we cannot take our eyes off of him. Just like Peter walking off that boat, we cannot take our eyes off of him. So, you know, I had to kind of sit back and kind of get reconnected to him and say, you know what, God, if you don't do another thing, and really mean it, right? If you don't do another thing, I'm good. I'm good. And then now where I'm at in my relationship, we're kind of just diving even deeper, is really getting into the word and not I would say calling God out, but really trying to experience the word, right? God says, hey, even in his word, he says that, you know, he would allow you and supply you to be self-sufficient in everything he calls you to be, right? So not living from a poverty mindset to be in lack, not living from a prosperity, you know, to where, oh, everything's going to be great and everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows, but understanding that everything that he's called me to be, he's going to equip me to do. He's going to lead me to do. He's going to surround the right people around me to do. He's going to do all those things. And I just have to, like, literally, because at this point, he's all I got. I literally have to trust him, right, throughout the process. And I know we say that, but we have to really sit and ask ourselves, do we really trust God? Right? Are you trusting God or are you trusting your work ethic? Are you trusting God or are you trusting your contacts? Are you trusting God or are you trusting your charisma or your talent or this or your father's connections or whatever it is? Are you really trusting God in everything? So right now I'm to the point where, man, like God has to come through because he's literally he's the only thing sustaining me. And I know these two men right here can vouch for it because I talk about it to them the whole time. And it's crazy because we always our faith, my faith journeys with my friends and my accountability men, it seems like it's always somewhat around that same journey, right? Like I might be going thing right there, then they might follow, and then they might be going through this, and I might be right after them. It's just weird how it always happens like that. But y'all, man, I just want to encourage y'all, man. We have to have those tough conversations with God, with ourselves, right? And have to be real and have to be like, man, God, like I don't get it. I still don't get it, right? But you know, I'm really going to trust you. I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to dive everything into it, and trust that you're going to lead, and you're going to lead me to where I need to be, right?
All right. So there were a couple questions that I had in regards to some of your story that you were sharing, and everybody who has questions, send the questions in the question box. There's a question mark with a little like thought bubble. Click that, type your question, and we'll get to all the questions. And then also a little later, we'll, you know, ask people, feel free to send a request to come on the live as well. Right. But I wanted to ask you, I know a lot of people and guys in general struggle with or see a correlation between sexual discipline and goals and things like that. And sometimes people are like, man, that's a weird correlation. Why is it that when I mess up, whether it's porn or this or that, why is that? And I just want to ask you, like, you know, you shared briefly about how you know, when you were going through the bar, you didn't masturbate or watch porn or any of that. Did you see a difference? And how do you see that correlation play out? And have you heard or thought of that thought that I just mentioned before?
Yeah, I would say one, you got to be careful with it, right? Because look, our works is important, right? And it does hold weight. But in college, especially with football, I was so, I guess, obsessed with that, right? To where I was like, oh, if I messed up in this area, that means I'm gonna have a bad game. Oh, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Or if I didn't, or I went a whole week great, I was like, okay, I'm about to have a great game. I feel good. Testosterone is high, and we about to like make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So it's not always about, because we can't con God, right? We can't say, oh, God, A plus B equals C. So if I do this and I do this, that means I'm going to get this, right? It's God does not work that way, right? God does not work that way. So we really have to understand that we do it just to serve him, right? And we just be obedient because he says be obedient, right? Not that we will necessarily gain anything from it, although he's a rewarder. We're not doing it for those reasons, right? Now I say I did it for, the bar exam because I didn't want any distractions, right? So I had to get a laser focus. And I know me, when I'm motivated about something, even to the extreme, I can eliminate everything out and get laser focused. And I knew that was my best, right? So I was like, I gotta give him my best, right? And I think there's a little correlation because you become more focused, right? So when you don't, masturbate and have, watch porn and do all those different things, you can become so laser focused. Even to this day, I feel like when I'm good and I'm swinging, I'm not even like watching those things, and indulging in those acts. Man, my artwork is on a whole different level. Like the ideas he gives me, the poetry he downloads in my mind, like the books he's given me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my creativity is on a whole different level when I'm indulging in the thing. For example, God said, abide in me and I will abide in you, right? So as I abide in him and I leave all those other things behind, man, when I tell you it just flows out of me, it just flows, y'all. It flows. So it's not that, it just allows you to operate on a higher level, right?
Yeah, somebody explained it to me like this. It's like if you've got a pipeline between you and God, and then your communication, love, all that, like that pipeline is the love, right? The pipeline's not going anywhere, but we can clog it up with things like porn or distractions or whatever. And that just happens to be a big one that a lot of people are affected by today. But when we move those things out, it's almost like you said, it just flows quicker, easier, and there's less things kind of getting in the way. One of the other things I was going to ask about was there a difference in how you prepared spiritually with the bar versus how you prepared spiritually when you were training for the NFL?
Yes and no. I think that process when I was training for the league and kind of, doing the whole football thing, I was able to kind of lean on y'all and vice versa, right? Because we had a routine. We go to Refuge, we go to this, we go to that, we go to FCA, we go to BCM. We had that routine every day, right? And it was good to lean on, right? Because I think we kept each other accountable and we created that lifestyle, right? But with the bar exam, it was only me, right? And I think every Christian, because don't get me wrong, you have to have accountability partners. You have to have people that you can do life with. However, there's going to be times when it's going to be just you. Your boy that you're going to call that can distract you, he might be asleep, right? He's not going to be in the bed with you. He's not going to be on your laptop with you. You know what I mean? So sometimes, you gotta be able to stand firm on your own, right? That's what the training's for. That's why we did all the things we did in college. So when you get alone by yourself, you can be like, no, I know I can lift this weight, right? I know I can lift it because I've done it 1,000 times before.
So you felt like that was necessary. You felt like that time alone a little bit was necessary, because I know a lot of people that maybe had that community in college and stuff, and they're like, man, I don't have a community anymore. I want that community. Would you say that there is a time sometimes where every believer needs to go into that wilderness with just them and God, and it's necessary?
God, I call it the silent seasons, right? God will always, and you can look from Jesus, you can look to everybody in the Bible, from David to Joseph, everybody, you're going to have to go through that season, right? Now, you need the community, 100%. You need to be plugged into a church with a small group, all those different things. You need that. But there still will be times when God will isolate you, right? Just like, shoot, even when Jesus got tempted by the devil, he was by himself. He was isolated, right? When Jesus, there was years when we didn't hear anything about Jesus, right? That's isolation. And those are the times when, hey, we're going to see what you've been working at, right? This one you got a box. This one you're going, hey, this one is go time, right? You're in the process at that point. And there's a lot of pruning, a lot of fighting, a lot of wrestling with God, a lot of testing out certain things to see, hey, do you really believe this, right? Because it's one thing, I'm going to be honest, and the more I live, the more I kind of see it too. It's one thing to say, oh, God is a provider, God is this. But to experience God being your provider, to where all you have, it's one thing saying God a healer until you need to be healed. Right? So you might intellectually understand who God is, but until you experience God coming through in those ways, that's going to give you a whole different love for him, right? A whole different understanding, because now I know God's a healer, right? I know God's a provider. I know he is my Jehovah. Like, I know all these things because why? Because I've experienced firsthand, right? That's why I like when people come at me on social media or whatever and say, oh, you should follow this religion or do this. I was like, bro, y'all ain't getting me with that. I know this man. I know Jesus Christ. You cannot, I don't care who, you ain't convincing me otherwise. Because I've known him, I've experienced him in such big ways to where I don't care if it's Buddhist, Joseph Smith, the stars, the universe, man, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. And people is free. This is a free country. People is free to believe anything and everything they want to believe, right? But that's for me in my house. We roll with Jesus 10 toes down, right? Like that's just how it is. Because why? Because I've experienced him and I know. I talk to the creator of the universe and he listens, right? There's no better feeling than that, right? There's literally no better feeling than that. So, I mean, hey, sometimes you got to experience it. And you got to go through it alone to like really know, okay, I really believe this, right?
Yeah. So go ahead, C-Love. You got something.
I was going to say, in those dark times that you were talking about, what are some of the things that you do to like kind of, for people that are listening, they may be going through a dark period. So what are some things that you do that kind of help get you through those dark times?
Yeah. Honestly, man, I would say one, working out. Man, y'all see my profile. Hey, I work out a lot, and it's a great stress reliever, right? Sometimes I get in my gym and I scream and I just flex or I throw weight around and sometimes I just gotta release it some kind of way, right? Because man, it's hard, right? Life is hard, bro. And everybody, if you haven't gone through it, you will. And if you're going through it, you're gonna not. Obviously, you're in it, been in it, or will go through to it, right? So that's just kind of what it is. You have to find like a release, right? A constructive release.
The sound go out?
Poetry. It was doing art. Can you hear me? We good?
Yeah, there was a delay. You froze for a little bit. I'm not sure if the connection, Wi-Fi, or whatever, but
it was a phone call. That's probably what it was.
Okay, it's catching back up now.
Yep. But yeah, so yeah, from art to training, lifting weights, to honestly serving. Serving is a really big one, man. When you start serving other people, then pouring into other people, it really allows your mind to get off of yourself.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It really, because when you start serving other people and seeing like how much God has really blessed you, you know what I mean? And where you used to be and where you are now, and with other people that are struggling with, they're trying to get through, you're like, Chris, why are you complaining, bro? Like, come on now. Okay, you didn't get to the NFL. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and don't get me wrong, not to like dumb down my dreams or anybody else's dreams, but sometimes I feel like we gotta keep things in perspective, right? Because there's people in this life that's going through some real problems. right? That's could die, that's family sick, that got a kid or got can't support their like some real problems, right? So sometimes you just gotta kind of sit back and be like, you know what? Let me serve and let me get the attention off of myself, right? And when you do that, I think you allow yourself to become a lot more grateful.
Right. That's really good. Serving allows you, like you said, it kind of puts things in perspective. You see
Right.
somebody else that may be going through something worse than what you're going through, and you're looking back like, okay, well, maybe I'm kind of, I may be tripping a little bit on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've realized that sometimes happiness, or I should say maybe joyfulness, is your level of what you have versus what you expect or what you think you should have. And then when your expectation is here and what you have is here, that disconnect is going to be like not happy, not joyful. But then when you start serving other people and you really see where they're at and you see, well, this is really what I should be at, then that surplus is like, man, actually, I have way more than I should have, and it puts things in perspective. I find myself forgetting that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I say this a lot of times just to kind of keep myself in check. No matter what you see on social media, no matter whatever I get or attain or the degrees or whatever it is, right? I am who I am because of God, period, because of Jesus Christ. That's why my name is Christ is King. My name is Christopher King. Christ is King. Christ comes first, always, right? And I always keep that, I always remember that because I am nothing without him, like literally nothing. And if we want to, people say this all the time, oh, I deserve this type of love, or I deserve this, or I deserve that. Man, honestly, I'm glad I don't get what I deserve.
Facts.
Right? I am so glad I don't get what I deserve because I deserve hell, right? I don't deserve any good thing, right? The only reason I deserve, love, peace, joy, happiness, and all those things is because of God. It's because of Jesus Christ, right? So when I say, okay, I understand the man I am without Jesus, right? It allows me to be so grateful and so dependent that I do have him now, right? And it's not that I'm owed anything, right? Because God doesn't owe us anything.
Right. I'm glad you said that because a lot of people think like they kind of compare themselves to people on earth and they think they're good. So they think like, I deserve happiness. I deserve this. I deserve that. But yeah, you're right. What we actually deserve is hell. Like
Right.
each of us in this chat room, everybody, because of our sins, right? So God is just so graceful and merciful that if we believe in him, we don't have to go to hell. But like you were saying, what we really deserve is actually hell and damnation,
Right.
really.
And I think sometimes we can forget that, right?
Right.
We can start getting self-righteous, but oh, I'm a good person. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And we can forget that, man, like don't get it twisted, man. You're only saved by Jesus.
Right.
That's the only reason you're saved. You know what I mean? And it's not by anything you did or didn't do, right? And I know a lot of times, like, and I'm never going to become this, but you could be like, oh, I'm a virgin, so I deserve X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. Man, that don't, because you ain't pure, right? Like, if Jesus is the standard, you always going to fall short, right? So you have to remember who is the standard, right? The standard is Jesus Christ. It ain't the person next to you. It ain't you know what's funny? How we always compare ourselves to somebody that's lower, right? We never compare ourselves to say, Francis Chan. Yeah, I just, you know what I mean? Not to say that, because they're in their own journey and stuff like that. But you always compare yourself to somebody you got beat. That's like saying, oh, I'm a varsity player, but I'm comparing myself to the freshman team.
Right.
Well, yeah, compare yourself to the NFL guy.
Right? So we got a bunch of questions here.
Oh,
and we also have a request. Let's go through these questions real quick, then we'll go ahead and bring some people on. So this first one, can you guys see the questions as well?
No,
I'll go ahead and share this.
No, we don't see the question.
So at what point did you realize it was time to fully surrender to God?
Oh, at what point did I realize it was time? So Like I said, when I was younger, around like 12 or 13, I kind of surrendered to a certain extent. That's when I gave my life to Christ. But if I'm correct, the one you're kind of referring to is when I was like, nah, God, like you have not only my life, but you have my dreams, right? Like you have everything. Honestly, I would say the process of like the whole NFL thing. And it's still a process even now, right? Of saying, no, God, like you have it all, right? Um, it's been a gradual process. I would say that it's been a gradual process of like constantly, because at one point I would surrender everything, and then like an experience happened or time happens or life happens, and I realized, Chris, you didn't really surrender it at all, right? Like you surrendered a lot at that time, but it wasn't necessarily everything, right? And now I feel like I'm to the point where, well, I ain't really got nothing, right? So it's like I have to surrender kind of everything to him now. So I would say, shoot, 2022 is like I'm really diving more and more into that, right? And I know a lot of, and not to just get so whatever, but that's why a lot of people be like, oh, well, how come you don't have a girlfriend or a wife or this or that? Man, I got to get this down. I'm gonna be honest. I gotta get this down, because I want to be able to lead my family correctly, my wife and my kids correctly, and teach them, hey, when this happens, this is how we gotta respond. When this happens, this is how we respond. You respond this way, this way. This is how we do it. I need to know how to do that, and I feel like now he's literally teaching me how to do all those things for myself, right? When this event happens, this is how you respond in this. This is how you react in this. You speak in tongues here, you pray here, you serve here, you do this, you give here. He's literally teaching me all these things. So, when I do have my wife and my kids, I can be that priest and be that leader in all those different aspects, right? So don't get me wrong, I'm tired of waiting. I want to, get married and stuff. But hey, I think this is so much more important because it's going to, like you said, you want something to sustain and kind of last and for generations and generations and generations. So.
Okay. So the next question we got here is, I don't know, I'm not sure where this one's going, but do you believe we have free will?
Oh, 100%. I think I know where it's going too. Yes, I do believe we have free will. I've had this kind of debate or discussion a couple of times before because, people act like, well, if God knew what you're going to do you really have free will? Well, yeah, we do, right? It's just that he knows, because God is outside of time. So he's right here, he's in the past, and he's in the future simultaneously, right? We can't even fathom that. But he's there in all those moments of time as we are speaking currently, right? So he already knows what we're going to do. But look, we have the free will to do whatever you want to do. Look, if you want to go out and kill somebody, you have the free will to do it. Now, there's going to be consequences to it, right? There's always going to be consequences. But you have free will, right? You always have a choice. And I don't care if it's a bad choice. I don't care if it's good choices. I don't care whatever. You always have a choice to make, right, in life. Now, being an adult, being, a man or a woman, you have to take responsibility for those choices you make, right? So that's essentially what life is, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree. We have the will to do whatever we want. Like you said, if I actually wanted to just walk out and go kill somebody, what's stopping me, right? Like, I can do that.
Right. Now, you might not like the consequences, but you can do it.
Right.
So, next question we got here. I'm curious how some of these questions have to do with the story he shared. So the ones that are just not on
It's all good, bro.
Here we go. Do you believe that you need to be as disciplined as you were, no drinking, parties, etc., to become great? Isn't the balance of having some fun important in life?
Man, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. That is a really good question. And looking back, just on college and everything, I feel like I was so focused on the goal, the result, right, that I did miss times in that situation, right? One of my biggest, a great moment we had, it was we threw a birthday party for one of our best friends in college, and it was a great time, like a real good birthday party, right? Good music, playing Michael Jackson, just vibing and having a great time, right? And I feel like I could have done that more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just decompress. And I wish I would have minored in art, right? I
Well,
wish I would have
he said,
developed that more.
well, he was talking about drinking and parties.
Right. But all I'm saying is, like, in terms of, yes, I think you have to be disciplined, but I think you also have to find constructive ways to relax and to have fun and to, you know, really enjoy. I don't think partying, maybe depending on the type of party, but drinking and smoking and having and doing all those things, all those are those things you have to ask yourself. It's not that things are necessarily inherently bad. Some of them are, but is it helping you become closer to your goal? Right? You have to ask yourself that. So for me, if I could do it all over again, man, I would have minored in art. I would have started developing certain skills in that area. I would have took acting classes. I would have been in a couple plays. Remember, C-Love, we went to a couple plays sometime. Yeah. It was like amazing. I wish I would have been able to be like, you know what? NFL, God, you got it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Let me enjoy being in the moment, in the process, right? And really be fulfilled. So I would have done all those things. Look, I don't care what you are, whether you're an attorney, whether you're an athlete, whether you're an artist, whether you're whatever, you are more than just that one thing, right? Your job or your career does not define you. So you're not just that one thing. And that's why I post and do all the things I do, because I want to show people, especially young men, that you don't have to be in a box. You could be this, and be great at all of them, right? Now it's going to be a little harder, but it's still possible.
So next question. Is Jesus God?
Oh, that's easy. Yes. That's an easy one. Jesus is God. It's the Trinity. You got the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Jesus is God. And if you want to look at it like this, right? So, for example, water. Water has three forms, right? You got the gas, you got the solid, and you got the liquid, right? It's the same way that God is the Holy Spirit and it's Jesus, right? There are three different forms. Jesus is the body, right? The solid. The Holy Spirit is the gas, would be the spirit, right? And then God is the mind, right? Think of it in ourselves, right? We are built up of three different components. We are mentally, we are our soul, and we are our body, our flesh. Those three aspects that we are, the Trinity, that's why it's so, that Trinity is Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That is the Trinity. We are made up of literally the Trinity. For, body, spirit, and soul. So, yes, Jesus is God. That's easy.
I would even add when, some people will ask, like, oh, well, where in Scripture is that located?
That's all throughout the Scripture.
I would say that, in Isaiah, Yahweh refers to himself as the Alpha, the Omega, the first and the last. In Revelation, Jesus calls himself, I am he, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, the first and the last. And then there's different times in the Gospels where he says, before Abraham, I am. When you look at me, you see the Father. So there is a lot in there that we could probably unpack for an entire live.
We probably could.
Alone. But
we probably do that, to be honest.
I think he answered. Yeah, that would be a great one to do.
And to be honest, I think we can touch on this too. Like the fact that I think a lot of people, they see Jesus and they think, oh, when he was born, that's when Jesus existed. And people don't understand, Jesus was there at the beginning of the time. Literally in the beginning in Genesis, it said, let us. Us, God is referring to the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? So Jesus existed before he touched earth. Yeah, right? He wasn't like, oh, he hit earth and now he's alive. No, Jesus has been there. It's just now he was like, you know what, I'm going to come from here, the throne of grace, and now I'm going to come to this earth, right? He has always existed and always will exist, right? So, yeah, you got to kind of look in perspective of that. But
here's we got three more questions, and then we'll go ahead and add some people. Can you talk about how to distinguish God's voice from your own, specifically when it comes to the will of God in mind? It's sometimes hard to tell if my idea of God's will correlates with his will.
Yeah. Oh, that's a process in itself, to be honest. Learning how to do that, right? Discern God's voice from your own voice. I think one, you got to get alone in his presence, right? And you have to start listening to his word. So listening to his voice. So for example, and this is like how I explain it because it helps you, right? So let's say you're walking, right? You in a store or whatever, and you hear a little whisper in your head or a thought pops in your head of like, oh, pay for this person's groceries, right? Or give this person $20. That's the spirit. That's the spirit talking to you, right? On a small, still voice to see, all right, let me see if you're going to listen, right? Hey, give this person $20, right? If you listen to that and you continuously listen to that small little voice consistently throughout your life, that voice will get louder and louder and louder, and you'll be able to recognize it, right? If you don't listen to that voice, it's not that it's not that it's going to stop talking. It's going to be very hard to hear it now, right? Because you're listening to so much other noise that it's going to be hard to listen to God's voice, right? So as you start listening to those small, still voice, because it's in a whisper, right? As you listen to those and you're obedient to those will get louder in your life. Now, how do you determine between that and your own? One, you got to get into the word, right? God is never going to contradict what he says in the word, ever, right? So if your thought or whatever is contradicting something that says in the Bible, then that's not him, right? God is not going to tell you to do anything evil or anything that's not of the spirit or anything like, for example, the guy's not going to be like, hey, you hollering at a girl, hey, go have sex with her. That's not God's voice, right? So the God's voice will always align with his word and his character. Your voice, your heart, or whatever you want to say, is going to align with your wants and your needs, right? Oh, I want this. All right, cool. That must be me, right? So you have to really and the only way by doing it is testing. It says test every spirit, right? So when you get those thoughts, God, is this you? Right? Is this you? Right? And God is not the author of confusion, right? So he will let you know. And then that's why it's also good to have godly counsel around you as well, right? So before I made the transition I made a couple months ago, I talked to my godly counsel, right? Hey, man, what y'all think about this? Is this biblical? Is this good? Do y'all see me? I've had those conversations. And not just had the conversations, was obedient to what they said, right? Because you had people that was in the word and that you trusted, that they hear from God and say, hey, I feel like you should go this way, right? And it's not always going to be something you like to do. They might tell you do something you don't want to do, right? But submitting yourself to say, hey, I'm trusting my godly counsel and I'm submitted under them, and that's what I'm going to do. So you have to test those things as well.
I think some ways that you can also tell, if you, like you said, if it needs to line up with God's word. But I would pose this challenge to people because I've had to pose it to myself, right? So many times we want to know God's unknown will. We want to know God's mysterious will. Mm-hmm. But how are we doing with the will that we already know he has?
Right.
So for example, if you know, hey, I know that I don't need to be watching this, or I don't need to be listening to this, or I don't need to be doing this, or I should be doing more of this, or I should be getting in the word, and I'm not. Why do you think he's going to reveal some big mystery thing to you if you're not even obeying the little things that he's given you? So Jesus says that if you are responsible with little, you'll be responsible with much. And so how can he trust you to be responsible with much, or what is the purpose of him giving you much revelation about something if you won't even follow the little thing he's already called you to do? So I would challenge for anyone that's trying to figure out God's will, you need to ask yourself, why? Why do I want to know? Do I just want to know because I want to know like a fortune? I want to know what's going to happen so that I can relax? Or do I want to know his will so that I can be more of the person he's called me to be? And when you determine which one of those you're going down, then you'll be able to at least grow in the areas that he's called you to grow, so you'll be ready for those big things that he's called you to do, or where he's called you to go.
Anything to add to that, C-Love?
Yeah, feel free to add to that while I'm looking through these other questions.
Oh, yeah, I just think that a big part of it is just reading the Bible and knowing his word. Because without that, it's like you don't really know the character of God. So how can you decipher between what's of God and what's just you thinking. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You have to read the Bible and understand the word for yourself.
Right. Because you can have some decent thoughts, but what
Right.
about those situations where you're like, hey, is the Spirit telling me to go right or go left here?
Right.
Or my mind is playing tricks on me? You got to be able to know God's character. And I think the easiest way to know his character first is just reading his word, seeing what he's like, and then growing in that personal relationship in prayer time. And you'll see rightly who he is. But if you don't have that, that solid foundation of the word there, you are not going to, it's very easy to be led astray by your own emotions, thinking that spirit.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Because, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have like 3 voices in my head, right? I got the voices from the Spirit that are good and fruitful. I have my own voices, like my own like mental space and thoughts. And then I have voices of the enemy, right? Like 3 different voices in my head. I know which one is coming from who. I can decipher between the 3. And that's pretty much how I live my life, right? Like that kind of gives me my actions.
And then we have another question for you, Chris. It said, you said there's a lot of things that God wants you to do. Do you feel like he's hiding your spouse until he feels like you're ready or done the assignments he's given you?
I used to think that when I was younger. But I don't necessarily think he's hiding my spouse. I just think he's preparing me for her. Yeah, look, I understand, like in life, timing is everything, right? From football to life to whatever. Timing is everything, right? So I would rather something take longer and get it right than for me to kind of try to rush it or just do these or get stuff done so I can get to this point, right? But not really learning and embodying the lessons that I'm speaking to myself right now. Not really learning and embodying the lessons that I'm going to need for that when I have it, right? So, for example, man, I can't believe I was just now reading this book, but the way to a superior man, that has so much good information and his needs, her needs, and in the Bible, obviously, but so many different stuff that is just making me a better husband, bro. Like, obviously, I've never been a husband before, but I'm gonna be one good. I'm gonna be a hell of a husband, right? But it comes with training, right? Just like NFL, right? Just like training for an event or a league or whatever. The only way to get better and be prepared for it is by putting that work. Either you can pay for it in the beginning, right? Or you can pay for it on the back end. But you got to pay for it somehow, right? So my whole thing is, right. My whole thing is I would rather do all the sprints, all the workouts, all the dying, right? Because if you training the same, man, again, and come game time, it's gonna be like a breeze. Right. So I kind of taken that same perspective, right? So I'm getting all my training in now. I don't think God's necessarily hiding her for me, although I feel like I'd be looking. But I don't think he's necessarily hiding her from me. I just think he's protecting her and me, to be honest. Because when that time comes and when the time is right, then, hey, it's going to be go time. I mean, trust me, y'all going to see me. Y'all going to have to see me, right? And like when that happens, y'all got to see me. So just best believe it.
So last 2 questions, and then we're moving on. We got some people in the request. This one's interesting. I'm not sure where the perspective is coming from, but I guess the question was,
do women have love?
Do women have love? Interesting. I don't know the context of this. I didn't bring this question up, but someone just asked.
Zach, you ain't gotta. It's all good, bro. You ain't gotta give.
No, but these videos get shared on YouTube too. That's why.
No, I got it. Context. So, do women have love? Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I believe every creation, we're talking humans, right? Men and women, we have that ability, that capacity to love, right? Why? Because God loves us, right? And if we're of the Spirit, right, now we have gained that access to love our wife or husband as God loves us, right? The only way to love people in any capacity, whether it's romantically or just as a brother in Christ or a sister in Christ, is through the Holy Spirit, right? So if you don't have the Holy Spirit, if you don't know who God is, then you don't know what love is, right?
Mm.
So as you continue to dive in your relationship with God and continue to learn who he is, now you're able to extend that love to somebody else. So do I believe women have the capacity to love? Most definitely. Men do have the capacity too. Now, do we all tap into it? Do we all get to know God so we can, extend that to other people? Not always. So yeah,
What
everybody has capacity to love.
what type of love are you talking about?
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, my mama loves me. Like I don't,
Yeah, that's true.
like I don't understand.
So, C-Love, you may be able to answer this last one as well. So I want you to chime in on this one too. Can you all speak on Jezebel's spirit? And have you ever had any attacks from it in your life? And how did you deal with it?
Ooh,
This one's aimed at everybody. So
ooh,
I know we've talked about this one, C-Love.
Oh, we have definitely talked about that.
You don't have to get into detail, but
Well, first,
you share that one.
Zach, for the people, what is the Jezebel spirit?
C-Love, honestly, C-Love would know more about that than me.
All right.
That's why I
So basically, you have to look like about who Jezebel was in the Bible, right? And she was a woman that kind of like used charm and like sexual like desires in men to like win over and take down like kings and stuff like that. So, when you're talking about a woman, like I guess who has the Jezebel spirit, and it can even be inside of a man, uh, it's just best to just stay away from those type of people. They're very,
Manipulative.
I guess, like focused on themselves,
Yeah.
and they use like sexual tactics and stuff like that to try to kind of like bring you down.
Yeah. And someone in the comments said Ahab's wife. And that was
Yeah, there you go.
one of the kings of Israel. She convinced him to kill a lot of prophets of God.
Right.
So it seems like it's an attack on truth. What were prophets? Prophets were messengers of the truth of God. And she hated that and wanted to attack it. And so what it sounds like, or what I've heard from what C-Love has shared with me, is that this mentality or this spirit, whatever you want to call it, of attacking truth, not liking the truth, trying to twist it in a way where anyone who is true or objectively true by God's standard, or doing the right thing, and calling her out, this character in the Bible especially, there is like an attack that is put on you. And how did you get through that time, and how did you recognize it when you were in that situation?
First, just by going to other godly men like yourself, and sharing, what was going on, and seeking counsel from people who have a relationship with God, right? And just you just have to cut it off when you run into those type of people. Don't even get involved with them. Just cut off all contact, because it'll really take you down.
Yeah. So something that I kind of, man, for as long as I can remember, man, not that I super studied men, but if you just look at men from Bible days to now, to Martin Luther King, to presidents, to this, to that, man, you look at so many great men. What was their downfall?
Woman.
No, well, not a woman. Their inability to decipher that woman, right? And to be like, nah, that ain't of God. I don't need to be doing that. Or I need to, right? Because it's not that look, I'm a personal believer. Yes, women have some responsibility, but I don't blame it on a woman. I blame it on the man, right? Because at the end of the day, you're a man and you control yourself, right? So I always took it so I'm not going out that way. Right? I'm just not. I'm not going out that way. Whether it's cheating, whether it's doing things you're not supposed to, or whatever. So, like, if you really watch women, right, and watch how they move and watch, what they do, how they carry themselves. And I'm not saying because I'm not saying this woman has to be like Mary and the holier than thou, right? But I'm just saying if you really watch the intentions of how like women move, or just a person moves, right? Because it don't have to be just women. A person moves, right? You can really see and kind of decipher and determine that spirit, right? You can be like, nah, that ain't it, right? Because spirit, if you in touch with God and you've been diving into the Word and you've been doing these things and praying and stuff like that, there's been times, man. And I know Zach can appreciate, well, both of y'all can appreciate that. I've been in New York and in LA, right? And I've been in certain environments to where I feel like certain spirits. And I literally feel them. Like I feel them, right? I'm walking through the room and I'm like, yeah, this ain't God. All right, like I can feel it. Right. And it was crazy, like the most recent time when I was in New York, and I was like, I was in a place and I was like, nah, this is not him. Like this is, and I felt it so heavy on me. Now, God, and that's why training is so important. God trained me to be like, oh no, we're gonna be this light here. Like I'm not backing down. I'm not running out of this place. I'm not. No, I'm covered. I'm covered by the blood, and I got the armor on, right? So I'm literally not backing down. I'm comfortable, right? But I still recognize the environment I'm in, right? And that's with us going into entertainment or to go into the NFL or to do all these things that the devil feels like the devil has his hands on. No, we were called to go out and take territory, right? Called to be the light in the darkness. So yes, you have to be able to discern who these spirits are, but like you also got to be able to fight and know how to fight, right? You got to know how to fight and to put your armor on and be like, nah, we ain't going out like that. We're not doing this. This is this. I know who you are, and move accordingly.
And I think the biggest thing when it comes to discernment is you got to be able to take your worldly eyes off. You got to be able to say, like, there's this idea of the halo effect, right? Psychology. And even a lot of Christians fall into it. Someone is attractive, you naturally assume, if you don't know anything else about them, that they have this character, this character, this character, this character. They're smart, they're this, they're this, they're this. And, you know, God sees what's on the inside. Man sees what's on the outside. When you're operating in that way, and someone being attractive or someone being unattractive determines how serious you're going to take what they say, you're not operating in the spirit. You're not operating in real discernment. You're operating out of purely man's eyes. And you're not going to be, and then you're going to fall for that particular spiritual attack every time, because it's like one of those fake lures that looks just like a worm. It's designed to look good. It's designed to look appealing. Satan looks good and looks appealing, right? So you can have someone who is very attractive and this and that, for guys especially, because I know we fall to it so many times. We hear something from an attractive woman, like, man, she's so wise, she's so this. You hear the same thing from someone you may consider unattractive, and now it's kind of, you know, it's okay. I mean, she wasn't all that. And so I think we need to keep those. We got to take the physical goggles off, and it's so hard to do. And like Chris said, it takes time. But let's go ahead and get to some of these requests real quick. Go ahead and send this. And if anybody else wants to hop on, just send a request down to the little video camera.
Hey, guys.
And you can hop
How are you
on.
doing?
Good. How are y'all? First of all, I want to commend y'all for you all's transparency. That's super dope, especially Chris.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank
you all being transparent. Another thing I want to say is I want to tap into what you said earlier, Chris. You were talking about being separate or being separated and taking time to tap into that, but then you went into talking about how in this season of your life, you're preparing for what's next. So when it comes to your wife and things like that. Did I miss a question before I started talking? Because it like froze and then I just ended up on here. Did anyone ask a question?
Oh, no, you're good.
Cool. So,
wait, what's your name?
Brianna.
Brianna. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, what I
just make sure we've got a new rule for people. Just make sure when you're going, ignore the comments. Just
go.
keep rolling. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so because you said something earlier that we tapped in on my live last night about, and it was about being in position for what's next. And you were talking about how you're doing everything in your power to make sure you're a good husband, even in your single season. And I wanted to tap into that because I don't think for women, the woman's perspective, for guys, y'all go through you all's lanes and prepare as men, prepare to be fathers, prepare to be husbands. But what God was showing me not too long ago is the fact that a lot of times we're ready for the husband, but we haven't learned how to submit to God. So if we haven't learned how to submit to God who is flawless, we're not even ready to submit to men who we're going to see be flawed.
Right.
So I think I want to, yeah. So
Talks about that all the time.
Ladies.
Right. No, that's big.
Ladies, to get mad at me for saying that. She's saying it now. There you go. Okay. Yeah.
He literally talks about that like almost every episode.
Really? And I
Like
think,
literally all the time.
the Lord wrecked me the other day. He was like, Brianna, you praying for a husband, you ready for a husband, but you aren't fully submitted to me, who is God, and you've never seen me mess up. You're going to see your husband slip up, drop the ball, and you think you're going to be submitted? Like, you think that's going to be comfortable? Right. So I think it's really important for us as women not to just be loving people or prepared to be nurturers, but to also be prepared to see our husbands be man. You get what I'm saying?
No, I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. And like you said, because like at the end of the day, we're still human, right? And it doesn't say submit to your husband if he's being X, Y, and D. If he's a great guy, if he's doing all these things. It doesn't say submit to him if he's this. It says submit to your husband, period, right? And it also calls us as the man to die for our wives, right? That's physically or figuratively. So God trains us, men of God, that seem to get one, that are going to get married, right? He trains us to be able to die to ourselves, to be able to die for God, right? So that when we do get a wife and kids, we can die for her daily, right? We can die for her. But if we don't learn how to die for our wives and our wives don't learn how to submit to first God, right, then it's going to make the marriage extremely difficult.
That's it. Solid point. That's all I wanted to say. I was like,
no,
that's
such
a beautiful thing. Because I have books on top of books about kingdom marriage, how to do this, preparation, how to nurture a man, how to pour into it. Maya Angelou said one thing that changed my life. She said, I'm a woman and I understood. She has a son. She wanted a daughter. But she said, as a woman, I understood that I'm meant to nurture. And what that looks like is that I'm meant to water. I'm here to groom. I'm here to do all those things. But I must have the capacity to do that. And the only way I can nurture my husband, pour into my husband when he needs it, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and pour into my sons and my daughters, the only way I can do that is if first I am submitted to the one who is the head nurturer, the one who pours. You get what I'm saying? So I think it's a big thing. I know there's a lot of pressure on guys to be prepared for marriage and like forcing them to make sure you got your money in order, make sure this is in line, make sure all of these things are set. But for women, we have to do our due diligence to be more than just the external appearance of a wife. Yes. You get what I'm saying? To have that mental, the emotional thing locked down. Like, you don't know you're insecure until you get into a relationship and now it's tested. You get what I'm saying?
Question.
You don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, did you discover this or have this revelation within a relationship, or was it like alone in single time to where God just kind of revealed this stuff to you?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. So,
or did you read in the book?
That's good too. So it's a mix of both. The Lord. So I'm 29. So the Lord, when I was about 25 to the time that I was about 27, maybe 27, about that time, I was in a relationship where I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was ready for him to propose. I thought I was ready for those things, and it was terrible. So in that time outside of that, the Lord literally said, Brianna, this is why you do this. This is why you respond this way. This is why you do this. So it was outside of the relationship that I came into the realization of those things. But it was the relationship not working that fueled me to go into that place before God, saying, yo, I don't want to continue to make mistakes. I don't want to be what I've seen. Like, I want to be exactly who you want me to be. You get what I'm saying? So in that quiet time, in that secret space, understanding that my healing is just not from things that were hurt or broken previously, but my healing is also in the things that I'm unaware that are spiritual, that I
Right,
only
right.
get from my Father. You get what I'm saying? Because the
Yeah.
world gives us a standard, our parents give us a standard, certain books. And to add on to what you were saying, the Lord literally shows me the books that He wants me to read to prepare me for where I'm going. So it's the Bible, it's books about being disciplined. You know, a lot of them, Priscilla Shire, Fervent Prayer, things like that. It pushes me in other books, John C. Maxwell, things that teach me how to be a good manager over my life, along with the Bible and other scripture-based books, which like give me that insight. And the Holy Spirit, spend time with Him. He'll show you where you messed up because He wants us to be right. You know, He's preparing us. It's a process. So,
I will say this.
Yeah.
I will say this before you hop off. I'll say this. I think that what you said and what you're doing right now is something that is so rare for a lot of women to do, and that is not taught in church that much. That, lady, if you also work on yourself, or you let God work on you spiritually, and you have a desire to grow and be the woman He's called you to be, you literally have that desire. It's not pushed on you by your husband or your boyfriend or whatever. You have that desire to grow. That is a blessing to any man. Any man who marries a woman like that, I don't care what you look like. Any man who marries a woman like that will be blessed. It's a blessing in itself to have a woman like that. So I just want to go ahead and say that to you.
Give you your flowers right now. Give you your flowers right now. Most definitely.
Right. Yeah. So
appreciate y'all.
Keep doing what you're doing, because you are going to be a blessing.
And keep teaching other women, right? Keep teaching other women and paying it forward, because, you know, and that's something we're big about, is just, you know, duplicating ourselves, right? So paying it forward into hopefully, you know, the young men that are watching us, or the young women that are watching you, they can be like, nah, that's it. That's what I need to work towards, right? So, hey, keep going, because you're doing it.
Go. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all. I'm gonna jump off. Y'all have a good
Appreciate
night.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for hopping on.
No problem.
Thank you. Yeah, that's big, man. Because as men, we love women that put in that effort. You know,
right?
We love that.
It honestly, in all honesty, is such a rare thing to find. Like, that is why in Proverbs, I know we don't like that Proverbs, because some people take it out of perspective and say, oh, you should like me because of this. That's it. But there's a reason why God tells us, like, we need to worry about a woman who fears the Lord deserves praise. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And guys, anyone else wants to hop on, feel free to hop on. I don't know why is she frozen on your screen too?
Who?
Nope.
No,
she's gone.
She's gone.
She's already gone? Okay, cool. Anybody else who wants to hop on? Let's see. We got another request right now. I guess it's got to catch up, because it's saying she's still on. She must have hopped off before I could take her off. But we got Blair Johnson who wants to come on. Let me send you a request.
Well, I'll just say this while we're waiting.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, please follow Kaz TV, and then follow us on YouTube as well, because soon we're going to start taking this to YouTube, and we want all of you guys to join us for that. Dating conversations, Christian topics. It'll be fun.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, situations like this, YouTube's going to be a lot easier to transition between people. We'll be taking callers, things like that. So if you haven't already, make sure you go subscribe so that we can go ahead and transition to that, rather than be stuck on the Instagram Live, which I'm not sure is always the best way to go about these lives because, like I said, things like this, it's not coming through. I keep accepting it. I'm pressing accept. And it keeps saying you're unable to join.
Did you send her a request or
I'm trying to.
him?
Yeah, it's not allowing it to go through because it still has.
Okay, so I'm seeing a comment that somebody said, I honestly don't think women like that are that rare. Honestly, like, you got to think. And if you are that kind of woman and you're surrounded by a lot of women like that, then yeah, you might not think that's an extremely rare thing. But you got to think of it in the majority of all the women that exist in this world, right? And what's pushed in society and what people see the most of. Yeah, like it's more rare than you think, right? And not just saying Proverbs 31 on your bio, but like really trying your best to kind of mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally elevate and to dive into the word and to become better, right? I don't care what man, especially a good man, right, or a godly man. Every man can appreciate a woman trying to elevate and become better, right, in all those areas. And I think, in society, just in general, men and women, people become very complacent in certain areas, right? And they might be killing the game financially, right? But they are very complacent spiritually, right? Or they might be killing, or vice versa, or whatever, however you want to break it up. So, like for me, my goal is to every day I got to find a way to get better mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, right? And you rarely find people in general that kind of have that mindset of, man, I have to find a way to get better in these areas each and every day, right? That's not a very common thing, right? But when you start surrounding yourself with a lot of people, you be like, oh yeah, okay, everybody. Because I kind of thought about that, like with having like accountability groups. Because I have one from high school, I got one from college, and I got one from like now, right? And we're all like together, and it's just always rolling. But I also got to understand most men don't have that. Most
Hey,
men
Blair,
don't have other.
go ahead and send the request now. It's finally caught up.
Yeah, like most men don't have a collection of strong, godly men that can pour into them, and most women don't. I think women might have it a little more, but I don't think there's just a whole community of men that have that, right? So with that being said, that's why we're outspoken about this thing. That's why we're doing this stuff on lives and have our social media to where it is, so that people that don't have that can take a peek and kind of see it.
Right.
Any other questions, y'all?
Any other questions? Anybody want to hop on? Otherwise, we can wrap it up in the next couple minutes. But yeah, especially when it comes to accountability and accountability, things like that. Let's see. I guess Blair left, but finally it caught up. But while we're waiting, here we go. So it'll be good. Guys, let me know when you see her in there. There we go.
All right.
Hey, okay, guys. Sorry, I'm trying to get ready for this, but
It's all good.
Hey, what's your name?
Christina.
Where are you from?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
I'm from the Virginia, D.C. area.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, again, I have to get on here and say thank you all because this conversation is so imperative. You know what I mean? And I'll just give you an example. You can go to like money conversations and there's like 1,000 people. You know what I mean? But when you're trying to talk about
I think your phone, your hand may be covering up the mic.
Is it on there? Okay.
Yeah,
Good
there
now.
you go.
It's good now.
Okay. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you all for this conversation. It's very imperative. It's very needed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In all our communities, and you all are very on point. So that's really what I wanted to say. Because if you see people in these other conversations, everything's about money, everything's about high value men, high value women, but the true value comes from God, right?
Right.
People are overstepping that in large capacities. I mean, and it's so common nowadays. And We know it's a trick of the enemy, right? But it's just so important to hear. It's actually good to hear men of your caliber, of your nature, just giving true word about that there are still men out here walking kingdom. You know what I mean? So I'm like, just want to say that. And I'm a smart woman. I have degrees and masters, and I'm a teacher. And I see my students, and I consider them my babies, right? Because I'm a nurturer, right? So I had a lot of students. I've been teaching for 15 years, so I've taught every race of student you can think of, right?
Mhm.
So, but this is what you want in an adult from any child, right? From any person, you want to see that they're still connected to the Creator. So, anyway, also, what I want to say, there was something else that was like pressing on my mind. Oh, that's what it was. So, I want to get advice from you all.
Mhm.
As a woman, right? As a woman, and now not connected with the man who I created a child with, how do we approach this scene without having to, give in the same capacities that you're forced to? You know what I mean? When you're dealing not in the kingdom, or even still, I think there's a blurred line, because as an adult, people have all the time set their own standards. You know what I mean? Is there still a standard?
So give me, so we'll go one question at a time. What's your question right away from like?
Okay, so do you think there's still a standard when it comes to like dating nowadays?
So
like,
dating with the child?
Dating with the child or without a child, sex or no sex?
Are you saying should you say, like, is there?
Because you all can abstain. I'm an abstainer. I've been
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're trying to live God's standards, is you should not be having sex to someone you're not married to.
But I think it's deeper than just that, right? I think it's.
I think what she's asking is like today, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like today
2022.
There's a lot of people giving advice that it's high value advice, or it's high value this or high value that. And I think what she's asking is it still realistic to say, hey, I'm going to have God's standards even though I have a kid? Should I still not have sex? And I would say yes, because it's God's standard. And I would say this: don't let some high value guru, whether it's a guy or girl, lead you to hell.
Right.
Because they're not talking from a biblical perspective. They're just talking from like a worldly perspective.
Right. That's good.
And I think it's, but that's not just.
But do you think that's realistic?
Yes.
Most definitely. Now, you have to also understand that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be appealing to the majority of people out there. But if we're being honest, you don't want to appeal to everybody out there. All you need is one, right? So it's, you got to understand what you're signing up for, right? You're signing to be the minority, right? But with doing that, you're protecting yourself from so much, right? By doing it God's way, right? Because now you don't have to go through all those heartbreaks and learning those lessons and having the trauma and the issues and the abuse, physically, mentally, emotionally. You don't have to go through all that, because you're saying, hey, this is the standard, period. This is how I'm living. This is how I'm dating. This is how I'm doing life, right? And if somebody can't match that, lead me in that, cultivate that, nurture that, then this ain't the person, period. And you got to be able to say, hey, and it is what it is.
And here's the other thing. Unless you wanted to add something, C-Love, I've got another thing I'd like to add to that on top of it. So the other thing is this. Like Chris said, you got to know what you're signing up for, right?
Right.
Some of these other people are going to tell you what is going to be appealing to a guy. What is that? Say I said hello too.
Hello.
Hello. Right. So, you said some people are going to say what is going to be appealing.
They're going to say what is going to be appealing to a guy. So I'm not knocking them for what they're doing, right?
And I'm telling you, I've basically dated in the church. So I'm telling you, my ex was in the church.
Right. And I will say this. There is truth in what those people say sometimes in regards to, hey, well, a lot of guys won't like this. And
Right.
and in reality, you may, I'm going to be real, you may not find a guy that will want that. But this is the thing we got to remember, right? When we read this book or that Bible I have over there, the Bible, at the end of it, what does it say? It says
It says any word or deed taken out or transformed that will be cursed with a curse. Or
well, it's not that, but it does
Well,
say
not
that.
that,
It does say that, but that's not where I was going. But that's good. It says that we will be with him one day if we finish the race, we finish strong, and he will wipe away every tear from our eye. And being honest, in all honesty, is bending and compromising my relationship with that creator worth getting a high value guy or any guy at that standpoint? Right. It's not. Right. It's really not. So if that's what God has for you, that's great. If it's not, that's great too, because in the end, you're like what Chris said. It's like, is God enough even if I don't get what I want?
Right.
And that's where I would say, regardless of what any guru says, hey, well, you want the husband, right? This is what you got to do to get it. If that's what you got to do to get it, then you say, you know what? I'm good. Or, also, I don't know the relationship with the person, with the guy.
It's amicable.
But who knows? But I will say this: God resurrected Lazarus from the dead. Right? He has the power to do that. He has the power to mend relationships and change people's hearts. So what I would advise when it comes to the advice, I would advise praying that God works on his heart and works on your heart to grow closer to him. And if he brings you guys together, that's great. If not, that's fine too. But at the end, it's like, where is our heart? And we want his heart and your heart to be closer to him.
Right.
And if in truth, like, let's say, hypothetically speaking, I know it's hard to think about right now because of all the emotions and things like that. But hypothetically speaking, if God changed this man's heart and he truly becomes a man of God, solid man of God, repents of things he's done, you truly become a woman of God, repent of things you've done. I don't see any reason why God can't bring you guys together, even if something may have happened with, oh, he's with this person now. God, I don't know the scenario, and I'm not asking for you to share it on live, but I just know that God can do, we can't limit what God can do, right?
That's facts. That's facts. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with that, I am happy with that, because that's how I live my whole life daily. We have to seek God above all. And that is our walk. Every person who's going to walk this life is never going to get through without having to really pick up their cross. You know what I mean? Right. So better to do it. I feel like what you're saying, and all of you have been doing this, picking up our cross daily. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's harder for women. I feel it at times, but at the same time, we just have to do it. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you all's testimonies, and I'm continually with these lives. So bless me.
So let me ask you this. I will ask this one favor. For everybody that enjoys this, everybody likes this.
I shared it before. As soon as I got on, I was sending it to everybody. Yeah.
Well, I can tell from the viewership keeps going up. I asked that you guys follow the YouTube page and then find your favorite reel on Instagram.
Oh, there's a YouTube page? What? Yeah. Okay,
Link is in the bio. We share all these live conversations that we've had for the past few months. We share them on YouTube. Okay. And pick out your favorite reel on Instagram, share it on your story, and then just follow the YouTube channel. That's all we're asking, because we're eventually going to shift over from this live to going there soon.
To YouTube.
So we want to make sure everyone who likes this can follow and still be informed of what's going on.
Okay. Right. And so what is it? It's called Cast TV?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Link should be in the bio somewhere.
I will, because I'll probably need this encouragement again.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right. All right. Y'all be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was good.
That was good.
Awesome. See, I like the fact that, some weeks we'll come on here and we'll have some heated discussions and everything. But at the end of the day, we want to see people encouraged to grow closer to God. Some days I may come off as the bad guy, or Chris may come off there. C-Love may come off. I don't think
T-Love
has
hasn't
a
had
bad
one
guy.
yet.
He hasn't had a bad guy day yet, but it's coming, right? But in the end, I just hope that we can all see that we're trying to build each other up, and we're not trying to make this toxic environment, but we do want to have conversations that challenge us on some of our thoughts, theology, and things like that. But in the end, we want to grow closer to who God is, which is the objective truth of everything.
Right. Yeah.
So if anyone else wants to hop on, go ahead. Other than that, we'll get ready to wrap it up.
Hold on. We got a question. She said, let's say you're trying to build an intimate relationship with God, but you're stuck in the same circle. You've been doing almost everything necessary. Nothing changes. What approach do you recommend?
I just sent her a request real quick so she can.
Well, I know. I think she. I don't know if she wants to get on. I think she had a comment to where I don't want to show my face. But if she jumps on, cool. But I would say. So I know a lot of times we can try to, I guess, put God in this routine or in this box of like, oh, this is how God has spoken, right? This is how I connect with him. This is how I get in his presence. So every time I have to do these things in order to continue to get in his presence in X, Y, and Z, right? And yes, that may work for a season, but God is not that he's changing, but we are getting to know God in deeper and deeper and deeper levels, right? So he's not always going to do the same thing or reveal to you in the same way, right? So sometimes, like, let's say, for example, he might reveal to you just getting in your quiet time with him, right? Or listening to praise and worship music, right? And then other times, like in a different season, he might reveal to you something through serving other people or through actually getting up and preaching to somebody, right? Or to having a quiet time with other people or leading a Bible study. There's so many different ways that the Holy Spirit and God kind of dives or allows us to get intimate with him, and we cannot put him in a box of like, this is how it's done, this is how I did it, this is how I always do it, and this is how God's going to show up. We have to be very fluid in how God is going to reveal himself to us, right? Even you look at through the Bible, there's multiple characters, there's multiple people to where God revealed himself through different ways, right? From Moses, it was one way. For, Abraham, it was another way. For this, like, it might not always be the same way. And that's even within your lifetime. As you grow deeper and deeper with God in your relationship and the things that he entrusted you with, it might be completely different in one season how it was in the previous season, right? So you have to be very open to it. I would say, honestly, I would say get connected to a group, right? Because as you get connected to a group with different experiences and different backgrounds and different relationships with God as well, they're going to say, hey, this is how I get in touch with him, or this is how I get intimate with God, or this is how I get intimate with God. And it might give you some ideas to try different ways, right? Yeah, I think having that good council of community is going to give you different aspects of like, okay, I can dive into this way, I can dive into that way, just something different than what you normally do.
I want to, before I give an input on your question, I want to know, when you say stuck in the same circle, I want to make sure I'm interpreting that right. What do you mean by stuck in the same circle? And what do you expect to see changing?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I kind of want a little bit more.
Oh, she said stuck in, as in you're not seeing change. Maybe I expect to have some sort of vision or something and feel the same. It makes sense. That's why when people have some of these complex questions, I'd like for them to come on live, because you can only explain so much through the text. So even if you have a noisy background, you can ask your question, mute yourself. You don't even have to be on video if you don't want. I just want to make sure we're answering your question accurately. But hopefully Chris unpacked that really well for you. So anybody else? We've got 5 more minutes. If anyone else would like to hop on live and share your thoughts about Chris's testimony, some of the things he shared tonight, or had any questions for him or advice for us as well, feel free to hop on, because, like I said, the comments sometimes do not do it justice of what you're trying to say. We can't read body language. You can't read tone.
Right.
And then there's so many, you can only type so much. It gives you a character limit. So feel free to click that camera link. If not, we'll make sure to follow on Instagram and yeah. So there's a transition from Instagram to YouTube. We're planning on transitioning from Instagram Live to going live on YouTube pretty soon. So we want to make sure that everyone's got enough time to have forewarning. Who really likes joining in and gets encouragement from this, we really want to keep encouraging you. We want to have these interesting, controversial sometimes discussions. We want to move it to YouTube because it's a little more user-friendly. And we also want to have a line that people can call in, and they don't have to show their face if they're not comfortable. They just share their thoughts, and then we can dialogue with them there. So that's kind of where we're leaning towards. And so the link should be in the bio of our the description under Kaz TV. There should be a link there for the YouTube channel, and all these live conversations get put on there as well. See, that's why I like to have people on live so they can address it before I explain all of this. No, Chris mentioned a transition in his life, said we'd be excited about it. What is that about?
Oh, I mean, I can't really say too much right now, but
Right.
hopefully in a couple months, everybody will see and see the transition. But I'm documenting the process right now, making YouTube videos and stuff about where I'm at currently as I go throughout the process, just to kind of give people the real feelings and kind of like that back behind the scenes of everything I'm kind of going through, and I'm gonna be posting that when it's time. So yeah, we got some things in the works. So just stay tuned, right?
Right. Yeah.
So everybody, again, thank you for coming on. If you enjoyed this, one way you can support us, check out any of the reels on our page. We've got some funny skits, things like that. Pick out your favorite one, share it on your story, and then subscribe to the YouTube channel. All these lives will go onto YouTube so you can see what's going on, like the week before that if you missed, because we appreciate your support, and we love to keep giving you encouragement and advice. So that's one way you could support us without us asking for money or anything like that. So if you can do that, we'd appreciate it. And Chris, thank you again for coming on and sharing a powerful testimony. I think that encouraged everybody. What do you have?
Oh, no problem. And there's so many things in that we can kind of just dive in and go in more in depth about. But thank you. I appreciate it.
And we'll definitely, I want you to get, I think we could have a whole conversation literally just about the bar exam too, because I remember when you're going through that phase, and I would love for us to talk about just that too, because I think that in and of itself, what you gave was kind of the nutshell version, but you can really unpack it more. And I think,
really.
People really like that. What do you have, C-Love? You got anything?
Yeah. One thing that the last lady kind of pointed out, listening to her, was, the whole notion of the high value man that's going around, right? But I don't think enough is said about just like the high character guy, right? And I think that's really what kind of most women really desire, is just a good, decent guy, right? So I think that's something we kind of dive into too. But with that being said, please follow us on YouTube. Follow Kaz TV. Let's keep the conversation going. Kaz TV. We're out.
All right. Appreciate y'all.